Welcome back, my friends. We are doing another Denial of the Day podcast here with Bellator Claims. And guess what? We have a special guest. His name is Casey, and he's another public adjuster here at Bellator Claims, along
What's up,
with
guys?
Chris, who is in the Batcave. So, Chris, let's talk to you first, and then we'll bring Casey in
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm in the Batcave here again,
once
plowing
again.
away, dealing with insurance companies is what I do on a daily basis. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
just the man behind the scenes. But
Right. You
glad
guys
to
have
keep.
seen Casey before, and I'm just going to have him tell us a quick little blurb about who he is, what his experience is, and why he's on the podcast today is because he has amazing experience with estimates. But Casey, go ahead, my brother.
Awesome. Thanks, Taylor. Chris, good to see you as always. So my background before starting doing public adjusting is as a contractor. I've built about 350 homes, dirt
Wow.
all the way to close. I've
Wow.
been an independent adjuster, been a public adjuster. I'm a licensed general contractor. If it has to do with a building, a structure, a multifamily house, I've probably either built it, inspected it, adjusted it, scoped it, all of the above.
Cool. I love it, man. So you have amazing experience within the construction field, which is what we want, which is what we need, especially when it comes to estimates. And Chris, that's what we're talking about today. What is kind of the first thing that you want to discuss with Casey on our podcast today?
Yeah, and that's great. In case I think one thing you left out too is that you've actually been on the other side too. So you've been an adjuster for the insurance companies. So you kind of see how they work, and so
Yeah.
it's have that knowledge on the inside and the outside. I think it's great. It just brings a different dynamic to our team. But
Right. How did we forget that? So that is
yeah,
probably one of the most important things when you work with Bellator. You get a guy that used to be on the inside with the insurance companies doing IA work and understanding their system and everything that goes into that, plus
mhm.
the contracting experience and estimating experience that he brings to the table. And us as a team, we're freaking amazing. I don't want to toot our own horn, but come on, y'all. There's a ton of experience in this podcast, in this room, because of everything that we bring to the table in so many different facets and perspectives that we get claims paid at a very high level, at a very high percentage, and we win for our clients, which is amazing. So, with that said, start us up, Chris.
Yeah, so I think there's certain things that you just know right off the bat when you see an insurance estimate. There's some things that should be on there, and that's
Right.
not probably a hard fight. Sometimes it really is in some cases. But let's just talk about some of those items, Casey. So, kind of what you're seeing, when you get an insurance estimate. What are the kind of things you look for right off the bat? Like, okay, this should definitely be on there. Just kind of
Yeah,
walk.
absolutely. And that's one of those things that a lot of times there's just basic things that are standard construction items, standard installation items for like a
Right.
starter row on your asphalt shingles, valley flashing on your roof system. Just standard components that a lot of adjusters and insurance carriers don't pay for. It's almost like they intentionally, dare I say that, leave things off leave things off in an effort to say, okay, this is like our starting point. And then if you take that dollar amount, that's great. And then if you have an educated public adjuster, an educated contractor that knows how to supplement and send in all their missing items, then they'll say, oh, okay, well, obviously send me a photo of it. Is it a code item? And then provide that supplement and that documentation in
Yeah.
order to get it.
So we see that all the time, right? We get estimates. We're just like, who put this estimate together? Why are these 14 items missing
Yeah.
or 4 items missing? And the 4 items that are missing are usually like the larger dollar amount or the ones that kind of sneak in there. They're like, oh, hey, we forgot to add that. And then you or me or Chris or the contractor kind of pushes back a little bit and say, like, hey, wait a second. Like, why isn't this on there? Oh, you know what? That should be on there. Yeah, we know. So do you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So do you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the next thing, Chris?
The next one is, this one comes up a lot. I see like any time of pipe burst or any kind of like that where you have water involved in the claim. And basically, if you've got hardwood flooring, that's the big thing, and carpet. But when you have a continuous flooring and the insurance company is only paying part of it, that's really kind of like, come on, guys, really? I mean, especially when they make the argument that, well, there's a door that separates the living room from the bedroom. Sure, there is, but there's nothing underneath. There's still continuous flooring that goes all to the first level. And
Right.
so let's talk a little bit about that, Casey,
So
and your
yeah,
experience.
Casey, how do you handle that? And like, what does that actually mean to the insured?
Mm.
Well, I'll say one of the negative impacts to the insured is it diminishes the value, meaning if you have mismatched floor, obviously you would never accept that because it's not acceptable. And that is going to diminish the value of the home. Now, sometimes not to get too deep into the policy, but sometimes the policy says we don't owe for diminished value.
Yeah.
However, they
Insurance
do
companies don't
owe,
care.
yeah, yeah. However, they do owe for, we'll use the phrase like, kind, and quality or similar construction material, things like that. We can say,
Uniform
hey,
appearance.
yep, uniform appearance. All of these things are in the policy. You owe for that. So we
Right.
can't stop blue carpet in the middle of a doorway and have a different color blue carpet on the other doorway.
Yeah,
So,
true.
and that's very much a handling thing that's been taught when I was an independent adjuster that we paid for a continuous surface. As a public adjuster, we always advocated for a continuous surface unless there's a very specific tile to hardwood, carpet to hardwood, some sort
Right.
of real transition, then of course.
Yeah,
No,
we want to
that's
be
a
reasonable too, right? The insurance company, we expect them to be reasonable and fair with us. We want to be the same in return. But like you said, two different blue style carpets coming together that are different color, different styles, doesn't cut it, right? Even if there's a doorway or a threshold, it's not what it was like prior to the loss. And that's all we're asking is indemnification. Make the insured as good or better than before the loss, depending on what their policy says, not diminish it. And so, like you said, Casey, one of the things is with my real estate background is that does change the value of the property because now somebody's going to have to come in there and be like, well, which floor do I rip up and throw away to make it one continuous uniform appearance, right? And so, like, why do you think that insurance companies do that? Why do you think they make it so difficult?
Well, I think one of the things is an approach to say, okay, we're going to have this bare minimum standard,
Right,
and we're going to write the bare minimum, and then who knows, 70 or 80% of people won't even ask to get it corrected. And they'll
right.
just take their insurance check and just move on down the road. That's why people like us as public adjusters come in and say, hey, that's not fair. That's not indemnification. This is what it should be. Then
Right.
we create a reasonable estimate, put that together, and then get it paid.
Perfect, man. And that's exactly it. I think they do. Let's see what we can get away with. We'll do the bare minimum and hopefully nobody makes, pushes back or notices the difference. But that's our job. That's our job literally every single day. We look and say, hey, is this fair to the insured? Does this indemnify them fully and completely and fairly? And if it does, then we don't really have a leg to stand on. And we have to pretty much agree with the insured's authority to basically settle the claim. But if it doesn't, then that's where we come in and we fight back. We push the insurance company to do what's right because, unfortunately, a lot of the times, and maybe it's malicious, maybe it's innocent, but they're not doing what's right. And the insured is the one that's harmed by that, and that's unfair. So I'll get off my soapbox. Chris, what's next on the list?
Well, the next one here too is just kind of flipping the script a little bit because we work with a lot of really good um, commercial contractors, general contractors, and
Yeah,
in our network in our sphere. And one of the things I like about Casey when he sees an estimate right off the bat, he's like, this may be either being underpaid or it's being overinflated. And so Casey's brings to the table kind of that let's keep it as reasonable as possible because I
sure.
think that helps with his background too, being on both sides. And I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but I mean, is there anything that you can think of just personally that you're seeing maybe that, okay, they're probably not going to pay for that or,
Yeah.
that's kind of a stretch there.
Are there any things that we see often in contractors' estimates when they
Mhm.
send it over to us and they say, hey, they need to pay this? And we're like, maybe, maybe not. It depends. We come from the policy perspective, they come from the construction perspective, and we hope that those two intersect. But are we seeing anything that keeps popping up that we're like, hey, man, like that's asking for the moon? Like maybe you might get a third of what you're asking for versus what the insurance company's offering currently. Anything like that that comes to mind?
Yeah, so the one thing that comes to mind is, and contractors, um, I'll get in trouble for this maybe. Let's see.
Yeah. Hey,
If we
don't
if we
don't come
get if we
after
get
us.
any
We're just trying to
comments.
be honest.
So having a lot of supervisor hours
Yeah.
and getting overhead and profit,
Right.
there is definitely a time and a place for supervisor hours. There's
Sure.
OSHA, there's safety, there's planning. There is definitely a justified supervisor hours. If you have damaged contents, for sure, supervisor hours are warranted and overhead and profit. What we run into sometimes is, especially on bigger projects or potentially commercial projects, they might say, hey, we need to get the overhead and profit. For sure, that's warranted. But
Yeah.
then also we're trying to include, let's say, 200 management hours. It's like, all right, well, we do need to have safety. We need to have someone in there, but
Yeah.
like, let's maybe scale it from 200 management hours maybe to like 60. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
that's an area I see that maybe some people maybe overestimate. And we need to come in, and our job is to justify why we think it is. So if I say, hey, we have a project manager 40 hours a week, 2 weeks, they have to be on site for OSHA, then hey, we can bill 80 or 100 hours. So if we can justify it, we'll put it in there.
Yeah.
But if we can't reasonably justify it or point to the policy or point to OSHA or code or something like that, then typically we'll make it towards a reasonable kind
Yeah.
of approach.
You bring up a good point because we're not here to alienate anybody or, hey, contractors don't come after us. But really, what we do is we'll look at it with the lens of reasonableness and legitimacy. Like, is this legitimate? Is it reasonable? If so, I will fight for it tooth and nail. If not, then we'll have a conversation with you and say, hey, man, you have 200 hours in here. We think it should be 50, 60, 80 based on this, this, and this. What are your thoughts? Could we make that happen? If so, then I think that's something that we could move forward with. If not, we might not be the right public adjusting company for you. Plain and simple. We want to work with you. We love working with contractors that are reasonable and legitimate. We have a ton of referral partners because of that. And the honest truth is, because we'll shoot you straight, we have a lot of contractors working with us. There's two things that we do really well. One is communicate. Chris is in charge of the communication with vendors, contractors, insurance companies. He does that very well. The other thing is for us to be transparent with you and tell you what we think is reasonable and legitimate. And hopefully we agree or at least come to some sort of middle ground so we can move forward on behalf of the insured, which is the only reason that all of us are here. So just remember to keep that in mind. We appreciate you. Remember, we're trying to reach 1 million people with this message, and we would love it if you would help us by sharing this, by liking it or commenting, and then please subscribe to our channel. That would be amazing. And if you need help with an insurance claim, please visit us, bellatorclaims.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time.